Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. Well, my last video, I talked about America's nightmare. And I am going to give you a specific story of one of the worst cities in America that has an opioid crisis that you won't believe that's happening right out in the open streets in 2026. And this place is Kensington, Philadelphia. Kensington, Philadelphia, where the nightmare in America and its moral decay is happening each and every day. We're talking about the opioid crisis, homelessness, joblessness, untreated mental health, mental illness, and prostitution, an overexuberance of panhandling and stealing, whether it's stealing in stores, looting out of stores, and those kinds of things. Kensington, Philadelphia looks like a third world country right in Philadelphia, let alone in America. And there are some drug gangs that were trying to take control of that area. And there has been a recent federal indictment, thank God, where 33 people have been alleged members of a violent Kensington drug trafficking organization has been charged in a 41-count indictment. So let's go. At a news conference here recently, the United States Attorney David Metcalf announced a historic indictment against a violent drug trafficking organization operating in the Kensington section of Philadelphia. The indictment charges 33 alleged members, 33, of the Weymouth Street Drug Trafficking Organization. So listen to this very carefully. They were called the Weymouth Street Drug Trafficking Organization. You'll hear this Weymouth DTO, with conspiracy to distribute controlled substances and dozens of related offenses. U.S. Attorney Metcalf discussed the case alongside FBI Director Kash Patel, FBI Philadelphia Special Agent in Charge Wayne Jacobs, and Philadelphia Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel, and assisting federal and state law enforcement partners. The indictment alleges, now remember they indicted 33 people and arrested. Big deal, a very big deal. Get these people off the street. The indictment alleges that from about January 2016, that's 10 years ago, through October 2025, the Weymouth Street Drug Trafficking Organization, or Weymouth DTO, distributed fentanyl, heroin, crack cocaine, and cocaine on the 3100 block of Weymouth Street, one of the most prolific drug blocks in the city, functioning as an open-air drug market where illegal narcotics are sold every day and at all hours of the day and night. You can pull up videos about Kensington, Philadelphia, and it is like an entire city full of zombies, literally. Pull it up on YouTube. While that block is in the nucleus of the group's alleged activity, their area of operations has extended to include the corner of F Street and Clementine Street, the corner of E Street and Wishart Street, and the 3000 block of Potter Street. And I'm telling you, in 2026, if you pull up this on YouTube and look at the drug history in Kensington, Philadelphia, you're going to be alarmed and shocked how this demise and decay, this moral and ethical and physical and spiritual decay is taking place right and wide open in the heartbeat of America on the East Coast in Philadelphia. It's unbelievable, the amount of drug usage and overdoses and deaths that are taking place. The indictment further alleges that the Weymouth DTO, drug trafficking organization, used violence to enforce its territory, including shootings, murders, and physical assaults. All of that goes along with drug trafficking. Members of the Weymouth DTO retaliated against witnesses that the DTO believes provided information to law enforcement and committed violent acts against members of rival drug trafficking organizations. As alleged in the indictment, the Weymouth DTO is headed by Jose Antonio Morales Nieves, aka Flaco, 45 years old, of La Quilla, Puerto Rico, who authorizes other members of the Weymouth DTO to sell drugs on his block in exchange for rent. Morales Nieves helps protect the members of the DTO through the threat of violent acts performed either by himself or his associates against others who have caused the Weymouth DTO, drug trafficking organization, harm or attempted to sell controlled substances in the DTO's territory. This sounds like a movie. This doesn't even sound like this could be real. What is going on with law enforcement and our governmental officials in the Philadelphia area, city and surrounding suburbs? This is crazy. How did this go on for 10 years? The indictment alleges that Ramon Montanez, aka Vijo, 40 years old, of Philadelphia, is a leader of the Weymouth DTO and manages the street level operations. So they're running this like it's Walmart. He is responsible for organizing the drug shift schedule, which establishes roles and shifts for who in the Weymouth DTO will be responsible for selling drugs at what times and on what days, managing proceeds and obtaining more controlled substances. As alleged, Nancy Rios Valentin, 33, also of Philadelphia, is another leader of the Weymouth DTO, responsible for organizing the drug shift schedule as well as managing and maintaining drug proceeds. A list of all the defendants and the charges against them is below. 24 defendants were arrested in a coordinated operation. 8 defendants were already in state or federal custody, and 1 remains at large. Drug traffickers who poison our communities and enforce their territory through violence will face the full force of federal law, said Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche. Working alongside our state and local partners, the Department of Justice will continue to dismantle these criminal networks, hold violent offenders accountable, and restore safety to neighborhoods that have suffered for far too long. He said he wanted to thank the U.S. Attorney Metcalf, the FBI, and other prosecutors and agents whose dedication made this action possible. The indictment is, by defendant, the largest federal case of this century prosecuted by our office, and it attacks the very heart of the opioid crisis in the neighborhoods of Kensington, said U.S. Attorney Metcalf. We are committed to returning these neighborhoods to their residents and reclaiming them from drug dealers who profit from the misery of others. This drug epidemic is out of control. The level of panhandling that you're seeing in all of our major cities is unbelievable. And don't turn a blind eye and think this is just happening in Philadelphia or its surrounding areas or New York or Chicago or LA, the big cities. The opioid epidemic is everywhere. Jefferson County here in St. Louis, Missouri, and its surrounding areas is supposed to be the meth capital of the United States. So there is no zip code, race, creed, or color, or barrier between addiction, violence, gun violence, assaults. This opioid crisis could come to your front or back door or into your family at any moment of any time. So he said, today, even more criminals are off the streets because of the diligent work of the FBI and its partners. said FBI Director Kash Patel. Over 30 people have been charged for their alleged role in drug trafficking and dozens of other offenses. These individuals were charged with distributing fentanyl, heroin, and cocaine on one of the most prolific drug blocks in Philadelphia. They were members of a violent drug trafficking organization and used violence to enforce their territory and sell drugs that poison our city streets and community. The FBI will continue our work to put an end to drug trafficking and violence in our cities. Well, part of this is a little bit counterintuitive because where you need to stop the drug trafficking is at the borders and entering our country. There has to be an allowance that is taking place through governmental agencies and whatnot to allow this level of drugs. Drugs have been an issue in America since the 60s, since Vietnam, and where the poppy seeds are being made, how it was entering, whether it was from Vietnam, the Philippines. This drug issue has been going on forever. And by the time it reaches the States, let alone the East Coast, the Midwest, it's too late. And the government, yes, do we need to make these local arrests? For sure. But this is the tail end of the train. We need to get at the beginning of the train and go after these cartel folks that are allegedly manufacturing and distributing these large amounts of drugs that are entering America, whether it's allegedly China, Mexico, wherever. By the time it gets to the United States, it's somewhat too late. We need to have a better and a more aggressive pinpoint and measuring stick at our borders and in our oceans. So today's action, that day that this happened, these arrests, those actions were the culmination of a deliberate, patient, and highly coordinated investigation into a violent criminal enterprise operating on and around Weymouth Street in Kensington. This group pumped fentanyl into our community, already hurting, and they used violence to protect their business. Thank you for your state and federal partners who continue to show up in Philadelphia, not as a visitor, but as teammates. Said this case is part of the PSN Recon, a criminal intelligence program launched this year by the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, in which the federal and state law enforcement community work together to identify the most violent and dangerous actors in the city of Philadelphia. PSN Recon builds on the original mission of the Department of Justice's Protect Safe Neighborhoods. That's what PSN, the acronym for PSN, Protect Safe Neighborhoods initiative, to collaboratively address violence in partnership with state and local enforcement officials. Learn more about the PSN Recon. That's what we need to make our cities safe again.